Good morning, it's July 28th, 2025, doing my sun gazing, and I'd like to talk about the implications of why any of this, why it's so important. To even talk about, maybe that's more important, talk about why is it so important than the specifics of it. I mean, it's the most important thing, because all these old scriptures and texts and stories and allegories like the Holy Spirit and the Trinity, it's all describing the mechanics of light, and it describes the mechanics of the relationship between ourselves and the cosmos, our Creator. And so when we understand mechanics, how something works, then we can fix it, like a car mechanic, Stuff doesn't work right, or work the way we want it to, we can maybe influence it and get it back to working. In order to do that, we have to observe, and then we have to make assumptions based on those observations that work. And we're making a lot of we're making a lot of observations, but we're not making the right judgment based on those observations. Incorrect conclusions. Correct observation, incorrect conclusion. And so we have all the observations. We don't really need new experiments. All the old experiments are valid. We just, leap to the wrong conclusion. It's like in school, if you're to study physics in school, they'll tell you that light is sometimes a particle and sometimes it's a wave. And what makes it sometimes is humans, is the observer effect. They call it the observer effect. In quantum relativity, they say that light becomes a particle when it's observed by a human. And it's a wave when nobody's there to observe it. And then, and when I heard this as a kid, I was like, wow, I guess you got to be really smart to understand how something like that would work. And it's like, I was smart enough as a kid to be confused, but not smart enough to realize that my teachers didn't understand. There are some people out there anyway, enough about them later, but that's magic, the observer effect. That breaks Occam's razor, that puts humans at the center of things. And I guess, if sometimes if you want to change something, you have to tear down what was already there. So I'm making these big general claims like Einstein was wrong. But, it's like you're a trim carpenter or whatever, and you're taking on a new project, and you're replacing the old trim carpenter that sucked, and you go in there on the job, and the first thing you got to do is figure out what you can save and what has to be, if anything, can be saved, or if you have to just tear it down completely and start over. Construction's a really violent process, and you do it as little of the violence as you have to, just like anything else in life. But, creation is a destructive process sometimes. But the point is, we have to tear down these old ideas that didn't work and replace them with way more simple, easier to understand ideas. That's why this is so inspiring. It's because I know it's accessible for the average human. It's not that complex. That gets you excited. Isn't it interesting that I would love the opportunity to go back and study, put myself and sacrifice my time and my years to study mathematics and become an engineer, because I never wanted to do that before. There's a lot of other stuff I'd rather do. Play music and tour. But now that I know what light is, touring and having a good time and playing music just doesn't sound as much fun as playing with circuits now and magnets. Because it's really the same thing. Like, I'm just seeing the underlying principles and simplicity behind everything, behind music, behind physics, behind religion, spirituality, philosophy. It all works on quantum field mechanics. It all works the way a magnet works, the way a hurricane works. Light works the way a hurricane works. That's why you have red light versus blue light in a spectrum. It's a spiral. It's like the way our senses, the sun is spiraling, or like electricity when it's conducted, it's also spiraling, logarithmic spiral based on the golden ratio. Simple, everything's based on the golden ratio. It's everywhere. We just don't always recognize it, but we're going to learn to. Even men and women work like a magnetic field. It's everywhere. Men are magnetic, women are dielectric. What is dielectricity, Max? Well, Ken Wheeler at Theory Apophysis can tell you more about that, but what it is it's the magnetic field. Dielectric field is the magnetic field in whole, but it's also a conjugate. It's part of it. It's weird, but so it's important to understand light, because if light is not moving, if it's a perturbation, it's a wave, the implication of this is oneness, total connectivity with every other thing living and not living in the entire universe. And that's not a kumbaya. That's not that statement. I mean, it does fill you with awe, but it means we're connected to all the bad stuff too. So it just is. But it definitely has decreased my feelings of separation anxiety and fear of missing out. It gives whole new meaning to free will. It makes the old text make sense. Like, so many things make sense, like spooky action at a distance. It's only spooky if you think everything's a particle and light's an emission. But when you think, if you think correctly that light is waving, and you start thinking about what it is that's waving, gravity, everything makes sense easily. And if that doesn't inspire you, then you're just stuck on stupid. So everything in the world's upside down and backwards. I mean, and I say stupid, it's not that people are stupid. People are brilliant, and there's talent everywhere. It's abundant. But we believe what we believe out of fear and emotion and a need to, because we're scared to tell the truth, because again, it's like a hurricane. It's like the truth is in the middle, and it's the middle of a storm, and right around that middle of the storm is a bunch of wind. And the more you tell the truth, the harder it is until you break through to the other side. And if it doesn't kill you, you've reached peace. And just like the eye of a hurricane, it's fleeting. It's not stationary. It's always moving, but it moves not at random. There's no such thing as random. It's just a higher order we don't recognize. If you heard somebody speaking Spanish, you've never heard anybody speak another language other than English, it would sound strange. But yeah, anyway, we make decisions based on what we need to believe to get through the day, to have a life that's not just filled with unbearable suffering. We have to conform. And so there's a higher purpose for the lies and all these things like conformity. And I'm not here to point fingers or even really be angry at the lies, because everything serves a higher order and a higher purpose. And all I can do is figure out how to, but that's not going to stop me from trying to push for truth, because it's a test. The universe tries to trick us. It's just part of the mechanics. It's not like an intentional thing. I'm not talking about like, consciousness. We think consciousness is the highest form of life, you know, and or we think that our form of consciousness is the ultimate, but I think we're probably like lower actually. I mean, it's like we need all this stuff and it makes it complicated, and therefore, you know, even philosophy, even the intellectualized philosophy, like, that's not a flex. I mean, like, my favorite musicians don't know anything about music theory. They do it, they can use it. I mean, it's a lot of the music they make is more pure, say, than the music that I make. And I know I can tell you what I'm doing from a theoretical standpoint when I play music, but it doesn't matter. It's a crutch that I had to learn it. Like, I had to learn that in order to, you know, to play the way I wanted to. Where these pure musicians, they just picked up the record, man, and they just listened. They went straight to it. They didn't need any ideas. They just listened because they loved it. They lead with love, not with intellectualism. And the wisest people on this planet don't know nothing about light or spirituality or anything. They just live it. They are it. Those are the people that I respect the most. So I'm not trying to think I'm smart or anything, but I'm just going down, you know, I'm doing what I think how God made me. And I'm just filled with gratitude and respect for a lot of people that I think our society and, you know, just look down upon. You know, it's like the common man who's almost gone, common housewife. You have my heart. You are what powers this whole thing. It's not these big companies, you know. I was just listening about food supply. We think food comes from these big farms or something like that, like they're making all the food. No, it's worldwide. It comes from our backyard, small food. That's where food security comes from. It all comes from simplicity. And light is simple. It's a lot more simple than the explanation of quantum relativity. And, you know, you don't need a calculator to, you know, they're looking for grand unified theory or the equation. But nature's simple. There's no beginnings, no endings. So there's no equation. Equations have structure, they have form, they have beginnings and ends. But, you know, the equation, the unifying equation of the universe is phi. Ken Wheeler says it's 1 over phi to the power of -3, and that's a little more specific, but really it's just phi. And phi is just a ratio, and a ratio is the same thing as a frequency. It's a proportionality, because numbers are false. So we have to think in terms of proportion, and golden proportion. And we need to think about what makes something infinite and its formlessness. The universe doesn't have an equation, but it does have specificity. And the conundrum, the ironic part of it is complete specificity gives rise to complete abundance. And they say there's no duality in nature, but man, that seems like such a paradox. Alright, sun's getting pretty high. I'm not going to be pushing it too much anymore. I don't think it's really necessary, but sun gazing has really helped me. And I think it can give value to others. This thinking about light and everything it's finally given me, it's answered some questions that I didn't know I had ever since I was little, that I forgot I had. I was really curious. I didn't know I wanted to know what gravity was so bad, and light, and what the Holy Spirit actually meant. You know, I'm always thinking about God, always. And there's a soundtrack playing And that's about it. You know, and I'm thinking about people. Sometimes that's why I had to stay away, because you just live in my head all day. I just become you know, because I didn't want to be me, so I can swim around in other people's perspectives, and it made me feel like I just wanted to help, you know, and give you stuff. And so I've felt selfish lately, just being up my own arse, but it's a good thing. We all need to do it. We're relying on each other a little too much sometimes. All right, y'all have a good day. Peace out. One love.